YouTube, petey2finger here talking about squeaky wah-wah pedals. Now first off, if anyone has a donor Roland EV5 that's not working, I lost the inner washer. There's two plastic washers that sit on the inside that have a tongue groove and a bevel. One of those disappeared while I was working on this today, so I got a piece of rubber in there that's holding it in place, and that's going to fall apart in probably a couple of months. So if anyone has a broken Roland EV5, I need the inner washer. I'll pay for the shipping and whatever you want for the washer. Just get a hold of me, petey2finger@yahoo.com is my email. And squeaky wah, what I read today, I was looking around on the forums. There's a lot of different angles on what to use. Dielectric, white lithium grease, silicon-based grease, oil, WD-40, coolant, what do you call that stuff when you do a CPU? Corn dog batter, all kinds of bad ideas. WD. So what I learned today was something, a guy that sounded like he knew more about the chemistry and physics aspect of it. He said when it's plastic on plastic or metal on plastic, we don't want to use a wet lube. We want to use a dry lube, and that's where our friend graphite lube comes into place. This is like pencil lead graphite lube, and if you're a guitar player that doesn't have this, you should get some of this. Go on eBay, they've got a tube of this for 99 cents. This is great stuff. You put this in your nut, in every slot where the string goes through, and then on the contact points on the bridge on your saddles. And this helps to really keep those strings moving when you tune them, when you bend them, when you whammy bar them, whatever you're doing, you're going to have better luck keeping your guitar in tune if you use a little bit of this when you string up your guitar. Now, some guys will mix it with a little bit of chapstick or Vaseline, whatever you want. I find just tapping it and filling up the nut saddles, the nut slots with the powder works well enough for me. I carefully pile it up in each bridge saddle when I apply the strings. But you could just as well go the other route and mix it up with a little bit of the mixer of your choice. Again, when it's plastic on plastic or metal on plastic, we do want to use a dry lubricant. Now, if you look, and the factory already put some white lithium grease in there, that white stuff, that's white lithium grease, and you can get that in any Walmart in the automotive section, or if you have an auto parts store. Now, there's another automotive thing called dielectric. That's white. Now, that conducts. So we want to be careful. Again, with any of these lubes, less is more. We only want to use just enough on the points of contact, because like when I open this sucker up, I garbage picked this EV5, but I still really like it. And not as much as my EV 110, but about a half as much. And then I got a Zoom little guy that I like too, Expression. So I've got 3 Expression pedals, and this one was always, I hated it because it squeaked. Now on my Morley, the Morley wah that I had was metal to metal contact point, and it did have washers in there. I replaced those washers with nylon washers. So I got 2 white nylon washers that were the same diameter. They were a little thicker than what came in there, and that, of course, that cost me like $18 at the hardware store, because you know how expensive the hardware is. But that certainly stopped the problem. And another tip for your old Morley wah, the kind that uses the lamp, they have incandescent lamp Marleys, and those bulbs burn out. So if you got a Morley, and when you notice when you're turning on that big clicky clack power switch, this is the Morley with the big AC cable coming out of it, the big chrome Frankenstein one. Well, all that is the lamp that actuates the wah-wah has burnt out. And you'll notice on the back of that Morley, there's a jewel that is supposed to light up when you turn the power switch. That lamp is actually the lamp that's part of the mechanical circuit that actuates your wah. So you just, if you're not, it happened to me, I had a Morley wah I used for years and I loved it, and one day it wasn't wahing. And I talked to a guy at a guitar store about it, and he said, oh, we have those bulbs here. And he went under the counter and got them out. And I bought 3 bulbs for around $5. And I took the other 2 and installed them on the inside of the wah in a foam pouch. So with some clearly lettered, hey, the bulbs are in here, dummy, for the next guy who ends up with that wah. So that was, me kind of going out of the way to knock it out of the park for somebody. Hint, hint. I need that washer. Now, again, with the graphite, for me, when I did this one today, of course, I was filming a video and I had both of these washers in my hand and I went to clean one and the other one was gone. I think Satan has these black holes that he opens up, like in your crotch when you drop something and it'll fall. And instead of landing on like where your privates are, it goes in this black hole and disappears. Because that happens to me about 2 or 3 times a year, that'll happen. And I'm missing that inner washer. But basically what I did, I cheated and I used some Vaseline. I put the Vaseline on there, just a light application right on the point of contact all the way around that surface, and then I sprayed this graphite all around there. And the idea was to keep the graphite from falling off when I move this thing around, because there's 2 points of contact. So there's no way for me to keep it level. So that's kind of the only downside about this graphite lube. I'm sure there's a better way to do it than Vaseline, a better choice, like white lithium grease perhaps. So again, I'm not an expert. I just learned that today about the plastic on plastic, metal on plastic. We don't want to use a dry lubricant. I learned that the preferred lubes, Teflon grease is really good. You can use any silicone-based grease. Keep in mind, less is more, because there is going to be dust bunnies and stuff inside the watch chassis, and that will end up sticking and making a problem for us. So less is more, only on the contact point. The really preferred stuff is the white lithium grease, or you could use dielectric, or you could use Teflon grease, or you could use any silicone-based grease. And in the case of, depending on what it is, if it's plastic on plastic or metal on plastic, we don't want to use those greases. We want to use the dry graphite lubricant. So thank you very much for joining me. If you've got any tips, again, I'm not an expert on this. This is just what I read today, and I thought I would share it with you guys. Maybe someone can tell me the real way to do it. Because again, on this channel, my philosophy, and as I go through life, isn't that everything that I do is perfect because I've reached my destination of ultimate knowledge. I'm always learning stuff. I'm on a path, and what I'm doing now might be different than what I'm doing 10 years from now. If I'm still lucky enough to be alive and doing this stuff, I may learn a completely different way that's superior. So I try to keep my mind open. Like Frank Zappa said, minds are like parachutes. They work best when they're open. All right, you guys. Peace and good luck with your squeaky wah. Now I gotta go see if I can find this dang washer. I already tore the place apart. There's no way I'm gonna find it. I mean, it's on video. There's video of this thing disappearing. So anyway, you don't want to see that. A lot of profanity. All right, again, for real now.